Hey, Facebook, real estate investors and friends. What if I told you that your finishes are what are keeping your properties from selling fast? Would you believe me? Well, today I'm going to talk about the 5 tips for your fixtures and finishes to create killer kitchens that will sell fast, because we do not want your flips to be flops. So stay tuned. Also, if you're tuning in and you feel that this episode would benefit somebody you know, whether it's a real estate investor that you know is flipping houses, whether it's one of your, if you're a real estate agent and you work with real estate investors and they flip houses, please feel free to share this episode on your page. Give us a like and a thumbs up. Let us know that you're here and listening. We would love to answer any questions at the end of this episode. So without further ado, let's talk about the 5 finish tips for killer kitchens. Okay, so you know that I have talked a lot about the ideal buyer avatar. Again, that is a term that I kind of came up with, but it's based on a marketing term. So if you have started a business and you are trying to figure out who your target market is, you're going to come up with that ideal buyer, that person that you feel best fit a demographic of who you're trying to sell your product or your services to. Well, as a real estate investor, you're going to do the same thing with your fix and flip projects. So you're going to look at the property, you're going to look at the neighborhood that it's in, and who is the typical buyer in that neighborhood. And you're going to fashion or design your flip to cater to the needs and desires of that particular ideal buyer avatar. So the reason why that's really important is because you don't want to design your flip for, let's say, a single bachelor, when you know that it's that you're flipping this property in a neighborhood that a lot of families move into, and a certain demographic of families and discerning buyers are out there today. They know what they're looking for. They have their dream home in mind. And so again, that's really what that's who we're marketing your property to. And we have to design that property for that ideal buyer. So what does that look like with regards to the kitchen? Now, we all know that the kitchen is kind of the heart of the home. It's really one of the first areas of the home that people look at. I know that when I'm shopping for a house to buy, I'm one of the first places I go when I'm looking on the MLS and I'm flipping through the photos, because obviously that's the first thing I do. So just a note to agents, make sure your photos are on point, because the descriptions really don't matter if the photos don't really speak to the shopper, to the person looking online. So I'll go to the photos first before I even look at descriptions. As long as I know that it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath or whatever, I'll start looking at the photos, and I'll usually go to the kitchen first. Because I want to see how the kitchen's laid out. I want to see if it's appealing to the eye. I want to see if it's a place where I could envision myself cooking and hanging out with my family and helping my kids do homework and so on and so forth. So your potential buyers are going to be doing the same thing. So I don't want you to run the risk of your property sitting on the market because you failed to design the kitchen in a way that speaks to your ideal buyer avatar. And it needs to speak to their emotions. You're not just selling a house. You're selling status. You're selling a set of emotions that come with that property, that ideal buyer, when they walk into the house, or even when they're just looking at the pictures online before they come and take a tour of the house, they are looking at themselves or envisioning themselves in those spaces. And so that's why you need to make an emotional connection with that ideal buyer with your finishes, because that's what's out front. That's what everybody's going to see first. And so if your finishes aren't on point, if they're dull, bland, boring, and the potential homeowner, potential buyer is looking at that well, I'm going to need to do this. Yeah, they rehabbed and it looks, bright and shiny and new, but all these things are missing or lacking, and that emotional connection just isn't going to be there. And they're just going to wait till the next property comes on the market, or they're going to keep looking at the other properties that are in the same neighborhood if that's where they want to live. So we have to remember that you're trying to make an emotional connection. They are far more discerning. They have a dream home that they have envisioned. They've added images of what that dream home looks like to their Pinterest and their house boards. So those are all the kind of things that you need to keep in mind, because that's who you're dealing with, especially if you're flipping in properties that are 300 ARV and up. Typically properties that are 250 and lower, those tend to sell themselves. You can kind of cheap out on some areas in that ARV, but anything over 300, you really have to take into consideration your potential buyer. So that's one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today before we go into the 5 tips that I have for you today. And we also want to consider that that there's also features of the kitchen and the layout. And I have, I think I put it in the original post for this live, that we've addressed the layout of the kitchen and that you don't want to screw up the layout. Because I actually just looked at a kitchen today that they just really did a poor job, and it's been on the market now for 60 days, and it's in a hot area. It shouldn't be sitting on the market that long. The rehab was beautiful, but they really screwed up the kitchen layout. So I do address that in a blog post, and I think in a couple of other What the Flip lives, and we can post those in the comments. And then I also just address just the overall aesthetic and look of your property in general. But today, like I said, I'm really honing in on kitchens. So let's go ahead and get to the 5 tips. And what I've done too, and I will, let me see here, I'll post in the comments. I've got to find the link here. Yes. Okay. So I will post the link for the freebie that I created for this What the Flip Live. I will post that in the comments after I'm done here with this, because I can't multitask and talk at the same time. So I'll do that after. So keep an eye out for that. And what that is it's just basically these 5 tips, but I've added some images and some links to products that you could use to give your kitchen a real killer look so that it will sell fast. So one of the first things that I always tell my clients is make a splash with the backsplash. So you're going to want to let the backsplash be kind of a focal point, and let it be that thing that kind of speaks to the buyer. So, so subway tiles are all well and good, but people are kind of tired of that, and they're kind of dull and boring. So if you want to use a subway tile, that's fine, but find one that has maybe a little bit of texture to it, a little bit of like maybe a geometric shape that's installed in the tile. You can use subway tiles that maybe have a little bit of pattern to them, but just don't go with the plain white subway tile anymore. Again, unless it's 250 or less, then do whatever you want. But if you're in the 300 ARV and up, and especially if you're in 500, 600, 700 ARV, you really need to do something with that backsplash that's going to be more pronounced, that's going to give that kitchen character. It's kind of like the earrings and the necklace with the ensemble on the outfit. It's really going to make a statement with that. And so, obviously you still want to go neutral. You don't really want to bring any colors. Sometimes, you're safe to go with maybe a light blue, or light blue is about the only one that I would recommend, but I would stay neutral. I would go with either tans, browns, blacks, grays, and whites, and do high contrast. Use a geometric tile that has a black and a white, high contrast, so that it's just, again, it just really makes that kitchen stand out. And then you can also go with subdued patterns. I wouldn't go with super bold floral, or some of those really cool concrete tiles with the kind of the Moroccan designs on those. I would go with maybe a little bit more muted so that they're not too bold. But again, just kind of look and see what's going on with the trends and the styles. And like I said, in that freebie that I have, that I've put together for you that you can download, I have added some that have been real successful for my clients and their flips. Okay, so tip number 1 was make a splash with the backsplash. Tip number 2 is don't pull any punches with your knobs and pulls. Okay, so first of all, do not leave the knobs and pulls out of the equation. Don't ever let those be something that the homeowner needs to pick or install, because that's a preference type of thing. Well, everything's a preference. So when a homeowner is looking at a potential property to buy, the last thing that they want to do is have this long list of crap that they need to do to that property before they move in, especially if they know it's been rehabbed by a real estate investor. They want it move in, turnkey, move in ready. So the last thing you want to do is leave the knobs and pulls. First of all, they're not that expensive. So for a couple $100, you can put some really nice looking knobs and pulls on the cabinets that will, again, add some character, give that kitchen some flair, and give it that finished look, that nice cohesive finished look. And then the buyer doesn't have to try to envision, well, what should we put on here? And you know what? Installing knobs and pulls is not an easy task. You got to center them on the drawer and on the door, and where do you put them? So you guys need to do that for the buyer. And I use all pulls. I don't really even use knobs anymore, but that's just my preference. I think that they have a higher end look if you just do all the doors and drawers with pulls. But again, that's up to you as the real estate investor, kind of making those decisions. And what else did I want to tell you about that? So yeah, buyers don't want to do anything. Looking at my notes here. So don't leave the hardware installation for the homeowners. Go ahead and do that. And again, in the freebie, I have listed several different options for knobs and pulls that you can use in your flips. Okay, so then the other, oh wait, I got to pull up my other page of notes because I changed something in here. Here we go. Tip number 3 is go top notch with your countertops. So the days of the old speckled granite countertop are over. Leave that for your rentals or for your under 200 ARV properties. But in anything over $300,000 ARV, you really got to put something on your countertops that is going to speak to the status of the potential buyer. So the quartz countertops right now with the neutral colors and the large veining, that really is all the rage. And it does kind of give your kitchen a high-end look, and it's not that much more expensive than the old speckled granite. So I would say fit the bill, a few $100s for that, and it's really going to pay off for you in the long run. Because what happens when your property sits on the market for an extra 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 60 days, 90 days? That's eating into your profits. $2,000, $3,000, $5,000. Before you know it, you've wasted all this money on holding costs that if you would have just put a few $100s in on the front end to go with a spiffier countertop with nicer hardware and so on and so forth, your property is going to sell much, much faster. So then so let's just recap real quick. So finishes tip number 1 is make a splash with the backsplash. Number 2 is don't pull any punches with your knobs and pulls. And 3 is go top notch with your countertops. Fixtures and finishes tip number 4 is light up their life. So you're going to want to add character and make a statement with your light fixtures. And especially if you have an island where you're putting in pendants over the island. And then, of course, in your dining room. And I know that sometimes the dining room isn't right in the kitchen, but oftentimes when we create the finished packages for clients, we put it all together and make sure it's going to be cohesive and that it's all going to flow well together. And sometimes the dining room is visible from the kitchen. So we want to make sure that we have that cohesive look going on. So we like to put pendants over the island that definitely make a statement, that stand out, that that when they walk into the kitchen, they're like, oh, wow, those are cool. I really like those. So again, we don't want to go dull, bland, and boring. We really want to make a statement with our kitchen. We want it to be, when they walk into the house, or like I said, even when they're looking at the pictures on the MLS, I have got to see this house. This kitchen looks so cool. You really want to draw that emotional reaction to your kitchen. And it's really not that hard to do. Again, I'll list this freebie in the comments after I get done with the live. And you'll be able to kind of go in and kind of see what we've put together, just so that you have that for future reference. Now, fixtures and finishes tip number 5. Add some wow features. So convenience items, they impress homeowners. They, go the extra mile for spice drawers, or put some glass doors in like a bank of the upper cabinets, just for that character and the appeal. Use some sort of eye-catching accessory, or pull-out drawers. What's one of my favorite things? The appliance the appliance lift. I don't know what you call it, but it's just really cool. You get it from Shelf, and it's a really cool piece of equipment that you install in one of the base cabinets that literally pulls out and then lifts up. Oops. So for things like your KitchenAid mixer that's heavy, and sometimes you don't want it taking up room on your counter. So those are the kind of wow features that you could add, just a couple here, a couple there, that would really make that kitchen stand out. And it would make that buyer feel like, wow, I feel like they designed this kitchen for me. This is my house. I've got to buy this house. So again, those are some of the things, those emotional responses that you want to create with that potential buyer, that will really make them feel like that's just, they can't walk away from this house. They have got to put an offer on it right then and there. And I did a bonus tip. Tip number 6 for fixtures and finishes is hire a professional for the win. So if you don't want to try and figure out how to put all these things together yourself, and you don't want to try and make sure that it's cohesive and that everything's flowing, we have finished packages just for you. We have our custom curated finished packages. So we will customize that finished package to that property. You call us up, say, hey, here's the property address. Here's some pictures of it. I'll email them to you. And can you put together a finished package for us? Absolutely. And we can do it. We can do it all from Home Depot, so you can put it through the bid room. We can do it from online sources, so you can sit in the comfort of your home and order them online, or your office, or whatever. Order them, warehouse them, or send them to the job site. However you want to do that, we can put those together for you. We make sure that property is going to pop. We make sure everything's cohesive and designer curated, so that you don't have to worry about any of that. So we encourage you that if you don't want to do all these things on your own, which honestly, if you're building a buy, fix, and flip real estate investing business, and you're trying to grow and scale, you know that your time is valuable. You know that it's important that you aren't sitting there curating these things. That takes time away from buying houses, finding money, private lenders. It takes time away from any of the things that you need to be doing as the quote unquote CEO of your business. And leave that to us, because it doesn't take us that long. And honestly, we can have it to you within a couple days, and then you're on your way. You can send that information to your contractor for him to order everything, or over to your project manager, or you can sit and order it all. But wow, it makes it so much easier. So this is definitely a game changer. So let me just recap one more time. So fixtures and finishes tip for killer kitchens. Number 1 is to make a splash with your backsplash. Number 2 is don't pull any punches with your knobs and pulls. Number 3 is go top notch with your countertops. 4, light up their life with your light fixtures. 5, add some wow features. And of course, 6, hire a professional if you don't want to do it all on your own. And with that said, I'm so thankful that you guys joined us today. I hope that this was really helpful and valuable to you. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We're in the Houston area. We're at 713-984-8097. You can reach me at Christine@REIDesignSolutions.com. That is our website, also REIDesignSolutions.com. And of course, I think I put a whole bunch of links and fun stuff for you in this post. And again, I will link to that freebie in the comments after I'm all done here. And I think that's it. So any questions, give us a call, and to your success.